My hair is looking super chaotic today, but I kind of low-key love it. Is that weird? Hi peaches, it's Shaaba. Welcome back to my channel and thank you for clicking on another video. I hope you're well. I'm feeling very good today, despite the chaos of my head. I'm feeling very calm. I'm feeling very zen. I'm gonna take a moment. Feel free to join me. I'm just gonna relax my shoulders a little, relax my head, relax my jaw. These are the things that I feel like tensed up a lot of the time. Feeling good. Let's hope we remain this way throughout the video. Because you know what time it is. That's right, it is that weekly segment where we take a look at the subreddit. Am I the a-hole? Why? Because it's a little bit of fun. It's a little bit of juicy drama. We can hopefully help some people out who are in similar positions, and we can also hopefully expand our own mindsets along the way, because we love a little growing moment. I'm so ready for this today. But just before we dive deep into the a-holes, a big thank you, because today's video is in paid partnership with BetterHelp, an online therapy service that aims to make therapy more accessible. Look, therapy for me has not always been the easiest thing to do in the moment, but the self-growth that I've had from going to therapy has been one of the biggest, most influential, positive impacts of my life. So if you feel like you might benefit from speaking to someone, then BetterHelp might be a great resource for you. They connect you to a credentialed therapist suited to your needs, and what I particularly love is that with BetterHelp, you can have therapy wherever and whenever you want. I'm talking via phone call, via video chat, which is what I personally do, but you can even just message them, like via a text chat. And I love that there are so many options available. I typically take my sessions from a very heavy blanket or a quilt on my bed because it's where I feel safest and most in control. And I love the fact that I can have that in my home environment without having to think about what I'm wearing and traveling and going to somebody else's office and seeing somebody else face to face. All you need to do is go online and fill out a quick questionnaire. You are then matched. And because finding the right therapist can be really tricky, it's a very intimate relationship and sometimes it can take time. If for whatever reason you want to switch, you can with BetterHelp. It is easy and at no additional cost. So if you think that BetterHelp could help you, you can take a look downstairs in the description box at my link, betterhelp.com/ShaabaLotan. Clicking on that link really helps to support this channel, and it will also give you 10% off your first month. So with all of that in mind, are we ready to go fishing for some a-holes? I am so ready for this. Let's go. Am I the asshole for cutting my son's hair against his mum's wishes? Ooh. I have two sons with two women, and I'm separated from both. The oldest is 10 and the youngest is almost 3. My youngest son has never had a proper haircut. His hair is fairly long and his mum refuses to cut it. It gets in his face, it's curly so it tangles easily, and in my opinion it doesn't look good. Speak for yourself. Tangly, curly, messy hair that gets in your face. I'm kidding. I try to keep his hair tied up, but he doesn't like it much and he takes it out. His mum is a bit of a hippie and is very pro boys can have long hair too. Where is the lie? I have no issues with boys having long hair. Okay, good. My oldest son kept his hair shoulder length for a couple of years. Both myself and my youngest son's mum agree about allowing our son to make his own choices when applicable. I like that. That's a very Montessori thinking in parenting, right? Allowing the child to be independent. I think it's just a very good way to raise humans, to raise future adults of the world. My oldest son is currently rocking a buzz cut. That's like really, really short, like a number 1 or a number 2 on the little shaver thingy. As you can tell, I know all the technical lingo. Call me Shababas, I am the hairdresser. I'm kidding. And I've been reshaving it at home every 2 or 4 weeks. I have both my sons with the same 1 week on, 1 week off. So my youngest son has been around every time that I've shaved his brother's hair. I see where this is going. Around 3 months ago, whilst watching me shave his brother's hair, he wanted me to do his hair too. Over the next week, I asked him about getting his hair cut and he said that he wanted it. I texted his mum and I told her that he wanted a haircut. She told me no, but that she would ask him when he was with her. She later texted me saying that he told her he didn't want shorter hair. Ooh, this is interesting. Especially when a kid is involved, right? Especially at the age of 3, because I'm like, okay, is dad telling the truth? Is mum telling the truth? Is the kid telling the truth? And the answer could be yes. And with the kid as well, is like, is the kid telling the truth with dad and mum? And the answer again could be yes for both. It could be that in the moment he's like, oh, I find my older brother really cool and I like the fact that he gets his hair cut, so like I want my hair cut too. But then mum's like, do you really want to have short hair? And he's like, no, I want to have long hair. It's very difficult right now to know where this is going. Okay, let's see. Again, the next time I was shaving his brother's hair, he wanted me to do his too. I texted his mum again and said I really think he does want his hair cut and that as he's almost 3, he can have his first proper haircut. I suggested taking him to my friend's barbershop together and getting a decent chunk of the hair off. She again denied me. I think it's sweet that dad is like responding to the kid's needs, right? Like the kid's saying, hey, I want this. Dad's then instigating and being like, hey, mum, we should talk about this. Let's co-parent. And also let's go to the barber together. I appreciate that. It sounds like OP here is trying to be respectful. I don't know if she thought I was lying because son was saying something different with her, or if she was lying, or my son just changed his mind. On Sunday, when I was buzzing his brother's hair, he was again adamant about wanting his cut. I'd honestly been so sick of dealing with his hair, and knowing that he wanted it cut made it more frustrating. I ended up taking him to my friend's barbershop the same day. Oh, I texted his mum before we left to give a heads up. I knew that she would be mad, but at that point I didn't care. I showed him photos of other boys' haircuts on my phone, and I let him pick one that he liked. He sat really well for his haircut, and he seemed super happy afterwards. He wanted to FaceTime his mum to show her. She was very shocked, but she masked her unhappiness and irritation for our son. Do you know what? Although this isn't Am I the Arsehole post, I really respect how both parents are like communicating with the child in mind. I remember this happening to me. My hair was so long. It was like down to my knees. I had very, very, very long hair. And one time when my mum was away, the person looking after me cut my hair so short, it was like Dora the Explorer. Like I had like hair up to here. I looked so stupid. I really wish that didn't happen. I didn't have a choice when I was a kid, but my mum was so mad. Like the second that she saw me, she started crying. She was so upset. She started shouting. Same goes for like other members of my family too. I just think that those reactions are super valid, but like not doing them in front of the child is a much better idea. After we hung up, she immediately texted me saying that she hated me and that I'm an arsehole and a bunch of other stuff. When I dropped the son back with her on Monday, I could tell how angry she was. Other people have also told me that it was an arsehole move, and I do feel bad that the haircut has saddened my ex. However, why is it any more her right to decide whether he gets a haircut because she's a mum and I'm a dad? If the son didn't want a haircut, I'd be an arsehole. If the son didn't care either way, you could argue that I'm the arsehole. But when 2 of the 3 people that get a say in this haircut want it cut, I'm not sure. Am I the arsehole? Ooh, this is interesting because I'm like, look, babe, it's got nothing to do with mum or dad. My initial thought was like, it's the kid, right? If the kid wants his haircut, the kid wants his haircut. But then the kid's 3. I've seen the TikToks. I have the little squish siblings and nieces and niblets. I know what young silly Play-Doh minds do with hair, and it's not always the right decision. We've all seen the fringe cuts. We've all seen the terrible, terrible mistakes that take 5 seconds to do but many months to correct. So can you really say that it's just the son's decision? I mean, yes, I obviously have an input. If the son's communicating as like, hey, I want a haircut. I want to look like my brother. We need to understand, like, is that because he genuinely wants his haircut? Or is it because he's swept up in the moment of, wow, look at this cool thing that I'm witnessing, this buzzing of the hair, you know, and dad sort of like with his own biases reading into that a lot more, which I feel like maybe is more probable. I don't know, because dad OP also says here that mum's quite hippie, so it could be that mum's doing the same and we don't know about it, right? And mum's like, but son told me that he wanted to keep his long hair, whereas mum's reading into it and is like, actually I really want long hair. Like maybe if dad showed his phone and was just like, hey, what haircut do you like? And they were all buzz cuts or shorter cuts because he did short boy haircuts, then, you know, the son's like, oh, I like that one. But maybe if there were longer cuts there, the son would have chosen one of the ones similar to what he already had. I don't know. It's very difficult. I feel like we don't have enough context. Having said that, I definitely don't think that either parent is entitled to make a decision over the other. It should really be what the kid wants, and you should be both taking a lot of time, in my opinion, to find out what the kid wants. Maybe that means you both being in the same room to understand the conversations that's being had, away from the very exciting moment of the older son getting buzzed, and also away from, you know, hippie mum maybe wanting longer hair, in a very neutral grey zone to talk it through. But really, I don't think mum has a right, and I don't think mum was saying that she had a right at all to make the decision over dad, and I don't think the dad had the right to do what he did without mum being present. Like, you're co-parenting. Don't do something big for your child without the other person knowing. And I don't really appreciate the whole, I did text her, like, on the way, before it happened, to give her the heads up. Like, she couldn't have said anything. You made that decision without her knowing that it would piss her off. You specifically said that you didn't care. So, yeah, it feels more like a 3-year-old's rationale. Do think you are the asshole in this situation. Maybe like not a huge asshole. Like, the hair grows back. It's not that big a deal, and I'm feeling a bit conflicted about this one because I'm like, I want to speak to the child. Be like, babe, do you really want a haircut? Like, how are you feeling? And I think the fact that the son was super happy afterwards is kind of irrelevant to the point, because one, that could be an in the moment reaction. Lord knows that I've had haircuts that I really regret, that in the moment I'm like, great bangs, such a good idea. But also, too, more importantly, it shouldn't have gotten to that point for you to feel like you made the right decision, because you've already made the decision without the other parent. I get that it's not permanent, hair does grow back, but it is quite a big deal. And I'm like, well, if you're going to do that without running it by me as a co-parent, what else are you going to do? Are you going to come back and I'm going to see my baby with their ears pierced or with a tattoo? I'm obviously kidding with the tattoo part, but I think it speaks greater to the principle where absolute equality and being on the same page is really important. No one should be making a decision without the other. And I get it, mum's decision was to not cut the hair, so I can almost hear some of you being like, but Shaaba, mum's making a decision without the other. It just so happens on this occasion, I think mum's decision also happens to be the default of let's not do anything until we decide. That doesn't mean that mum's getting her way, it just means that there's a postponing. That makes sense in my head. I don't know if it makes sense to anyone else. Do you agree? Not the arsehole. You are his parent too, and you followed his wishes. Her having an attachment to his hair is an issue that she needs to deal with, as he will dress and style himself in ways that she won't like more and more as he grows. I totally agree that kids, like have the independence to style themselves as they grow and away from the buzzing situation. That's my point. Like if the 3-year-old was going, Daddy, I really want my hair cut, when you were not buzzing the other son's hair, totally get that that indicates that the child really wants it. But because it's always in the moment where something else is happening to the older child, I am the older sibling, so I can only talk about it from that point of view, but I could have been doing, like, I remember having my hair done with the little lice combs because I had knits at school. It was so horrible. And my sister would be like, oh, do mine, mummy, do mine. Like, kids just want things that they see other people that they like and aspire just because they're older. They want that too. It doesn't mean that they actually want it. They don't know. They're silly little squishes. I don't disagree with this take. I'm just not sure if this take is accurate. Yes, you should be following your kid's wishes and not the wishes of the mum, because a haircut doesn't hurt, and if that's really what he wants, then absolutely that's something that he should have. And as he grows older, son absolutely should have more independence, but like when he has the forethought and he's not 3 years old and is able to make such a decision. But I'm not sure if that's what was happening here. I don't know, not the asshole. He asked 3 times. It's not a permanent body change, meaning that you didn't pierce his ears. It's just hair and it does grow back. I do agree with that. It's not the end of the world. It is just a haircut. But as I said before, it kind of speaks to a wider principle of like, if you're going to do that, what else are you going to do? And again, I sound like a bit of a stuck record, but he only asked when you were doing things to the other brother's hair. And that to me means that the kid isn't making like a really fully informed decision. Like if I said, oh, I really want a tattoo every time I saw someone else getting tattooed in a tattoo studio, but when I was not in a tattoo studio, I had no desire for a tattoo, then maybe I don't actually want a tattoo. Environments can be very influential. The people around us can be very influential, and time and forethought in different contexts can be a really wonderful thing to understand if it's something that we actually want. And 3-year-olds do not have the capacity to understand that. That's why we parent well, right? Yeah, not the arsehole for listening to his son. X might be the arsehole for forcing her own ideas on him and ignoring his totally reasonable desire for a haircut. I'm also for boys with long hair. My oldest has long hair, says this commenter, but his glorious curls keep it manageable. My youngest has a far different hair type that gets very tangled and knotty if it gets long, and he hates to have it brushed. So he eventually opted for slightly shorter hair, which he loves. I like the fact that there's examples being provided, and I do agree that it would be a totally reasonable request if it was coming in multiple different scenarios, and not in a scenario that was very loaded. And again, he's 3 friggin' years old! He's only 3 years old! But like, even me, I was like, oh, when I had such long hair, it was so knotty, it was so annoying. I'd like sit in the car, I cannot tell you the number of times where I'd have like a plait, right? And I'd try and get out the car, but my sister or my nan, like somebody would be sitting next to me on my hair, and it would like yank from my head, and it would be so painful. Like every morning, it was so painful to brush and to plait. Every time I showered, it was so annoying. But when I had short hair, I really regretted it. I liked the aesthetic of long hair. I liked how it made me feel, and for me, the frustration of having long hair is something that I'm willing to put up with because of how long hair makes me feel. Does that make sense? Like, I don't enjoy the process of bleaching my hair or getting it pink. It's not fun to me, but I like having pink hair. So I'm gonna deal with the annoyance to ultimately do something that makes me happy. And I feel like the son needs to just be able to be a bit more grown up to understand those nuances. Unless he is the one that is constantly going, oh, dad, mum, my hair hurts. It's so knotty. But again, didn't seem like that was the case. Opie didn't suggest that that was the case. She could have coached his answer, says someone else. You have such wonderful hair, sweetie. Mummy just loves her little boy's long hair. I hope you never cut it. You don't want to cut it, do you? Totally. That could have happened. Opie could also have been doing the same thing. This is a difficult one to judge. My 3-year-old changed his mind daily about how long he wanted his hair. Long like mummy, short so I won't brush it. Short like daddy. Wants a mane like Simba. Long short, because I let him watch a movie whilst I cut his hair. The chances she was lying are way smaller than him changing his mind depending on who he was with. This to me feels more like a 3-year-old's rationale. We're talking about beings that still think their toes are a tasty snack. I seem to be disagreeing with the forum straight out. The first one and I'm like, you're the arsehole, and everyone's like, not the arsehole. What do you think, Peaches? Let me know. Honestly, I can appreciate both takes. I can also see how there are no arseholes here, or how both mum and dad are the arsehole. I think it depends on more context, which we don't have in this exact moment. But let me know your thoughts. Meanwhile, am I the asshole for not moving out of my sister and her husband's house? Ooh. I'm a 26-year-old woman. I've divorced my husband Ryan 6 months ago because he was cheating on me with his co-worker. The two of us took out a huge loan to renovate a house that we got together, but I found out that he used the money to go on dates with her and buy her clothes. Wow, that must be a lot of clothes, because a house renovation loan must be a lot of money. I was absolutely devastated and I filed for divorce almost immediately. After the divorce, the loan was split in equal parts for both of us, and now I have to pay out over £60,000. There's a lot of clothes. It's a lot of clothes. Wow. This is clearly such a sucky scenario. I moved out of the house we were renovating, and my sister, Ellie, who's 34, offered me to live with her and her husband, Steve, who's 36. Okay, so they're like basically 10 years older than you. We agreed that I paid part of the gas, electricity, water bills, and help her out with the girls, who are 7 and 10, so they have 2 kids. Okay, and everything was going great for a while as I kept up my word and I took the girls to school and back, helped them with their homework, I helped Ellie with the household chores on top of having my normal 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. workday hours. Ellie and I have always been very close, and especially after my divorce with Ryan, we don't have any other family besides each other, her husband and the girls, so we always stick close. Steve and I, on the other hand, have never really gotten along well, so he's really hostile towards me ever since I moved in. Especially now that me and Ellie spend a lot of time together, Steve became really snappy and angry towards me. 2 weeks ago, Steve asked me to move out of the house because I'm ruining his family and marriage. Ellie stood up for me, and it started an argument between them. Steve called me an arsehole for not getting myself back up in 6 months that I have spent doing nothing. Okay. I'm not planning to move in the near future, as Ellie and the girls absolutely love me and I can't imagine life without them. They keep me busy and always thinking about something else during this difficult time and want me to stay. Steve hasn't moved a finger about his daughter since I moved in. Everything is done by me and Ellie around the house too, even grocery shopping. I don't have anyone or anywhere else to go at the minute, especially at such short notice, and renting an entire house or apartment alone isn't for my pocket, as much as that would be a perfect option. So, am I really the arsehole for not moving out? Ooh, wow. Why do I feel like today's episode is really controversial? This is my thinking? Yes. OP, you are the arsehole. Do you know why I'm thinking that? Absolutely love the fact that you and your sister get along so well. It's so sweet that, you know, your sister's taken you in. It's so sweet that you've been able to help out, and your little nieces, your little niblets, whatever gender they are having a wonderful time having Auntie OP around. I love that. I don't love the fact that unfortunately you're not getting on with brother-in-law. That kind of sucks. However, I can kind of see where he's coming from. I'll explain why. If somebody said to me, hey, I need some help because look, things are going on and I need somewhere to stay, absolutely. Come, my house, mi casa, su casa, I will help you out. If they then said, I have no plans at all of moving out, and I plan on staying here because I'm having a great time and you're having a great time, and, you know, I don't need to, I'd start to have a problem with that, because this is a little family picture portrait already. Like, it's great that you can join it, but you can join it without living in it, you know? You can visit frequently. You can see your little niblets and your sister without living with them. They are also having a life that they are creating. Your life is having a changeover, a makeover. That's great, that's cool, and, you know, they can support you, but it's not a long-term goal. And I feel like if someone was to say to me, I have no plans on moving out, I too would be like, do something. And with the whole, like, doing nothing thing, I think what Steve in this situation is saying is not that you haven't helped out, but if you're feeling so comfortable living in someone else's daily family portrait to the point where you're saying, I have no plans on moving at all, I don't want to set up my own life away from this, you may be doing groceries, you may be doing day-to-day things to help the family out, but you're not doing anything to progress yourself in the long term. Do you really want to be there in like 20, 30 years time in someone else's family picture? Wouldn't you, OP, rather be in your own family picture? Like, surely living in someone else's household, as you are, would detriment the ability for you to move on, would discourage you from finding, you know, your own friends and family and socializing and partners and all the other things. So that's why I think think that it's a bit of an arsehole move. It's a soft arsehole. It's not an intentional arsehole. I get it. It's lovely for the short term. But I definitely think that like long term, if somebody in that house is like, hey, you're really like disrupting our family life, you can't be like, well, I like it here, so I plan on staying. Let's see if the forum agrees with us this time. Everybody sucks here. It sucks that the sister and Steve are working out their problems with you in the middle. It sucks that you don't care and are 100% willing to continue to contribute to a strain on their relationship. And also your sister and husband are not responsible for your lack of other options. Oh, I'm not sure. I guess I'm not quite understanding how sister and Steve are working out their problems with you in the middle. I think what Steve is saying is you're putting a strain on the relationship because you're imposing in the family picture and not showing any signs of leaving. So his frustration isn't at his wife, who at the end of the day is just trying to help out a sister in need, but at the sister who is not willing to do anything to change that position and that imposition, you know? Perhaps Steve didn't have to say it directly and in front of OP, but also, you know, if Steve has a problem and it's his house and he's like, you need to get a wiggle on, he's very entitled to do that. You are the asshole. You'd rather ruin your sister's marriage than move out. You're 26, and if you can't afford a place of your own, you're going to have to live with roommates until you can afford to do so. Do I agree with this? I mean, in principle, yes, you know, like, you shouldn't be ruining someone's marriage, but I don't think that onus should be placed on you. It's clear, though, that you've maybe outstayed your welcome, and this idea of the long term, but I have no plans on moving out anytime soon because I love it here, is clearly not working for the other people who are providing you with that setup, and that should mean something. I don't know. I don't think, though, that you should move out with roommates. I do think, though, like, I don't think Steve is asking you to move out tomorrow. Obviously, I don't know, but I would have a feeling that if you had a plan to be like, look, I'm saving up to get my own place, this is where I need to be, you know, in like the rental format or whatever, then having a plan alone will probably go a long way to helping the family realise that you are here as a stepping stone, not as the final resting place. I didn't mean for that to sound so morbid. You are the asshole for not being willing to look out for another place to live. It isn't your home and they aren't your kids. You're getting between your sister and Steve so they can't have a proper marriage, and I can fully understand why Steve doesn't like you. Oh, the shade. Is Steve able to do anything with his daughters with you always there? Yes, you really are the asshole for not moving out. They gave you a soft landing when you needed it, and it's time to get on with your own life and let them have their life back before you destroy it. A tad dramatic, perhaps. A tad dramatic, but I agree with the principle of this. Alright, so I seem to be on the same kind of page with the forum this time. That's 1 for 2. Let's see if it happens again. Am I the arsehole for harshly telling 2 people to shut the f*** up about my disability? I like the sassiness. I'm a 26-year-old man, and 2 years ago I had a serious accident at work that resulted in the loss of my left hand. Due to the circumstances surrounding it, one of the decisions that I made at the time was to not come home. What does this mean? All of that changed a month ago when I left my work community and moved into my lakeside cottage. This has sadly led to my current situation with my mother and her friend Diana, who are my new neighbours. Oh, so you've moved to a place where your mum and her friend are your neighbours. The problem with them started my first few days here when they began to start acting like helicopter mums. We are familiar with the old helicopter parenting. The first instance of this was when I had to swap out my house's broken water heater. When it came time to install the new one, the 2 of them kept trying to tell me what to do and or take over. This got so bad that at one point I had to have my father distract them so that I could work in peace. Things sadly didn't get better as time went on, as their antics have only gotten worse and worse. Things unfortunately peaked last week when I decided to pull out and do some work on my logging chainsaws. Whilst doing so, my mother and Diana wound up coming over after they saw me trying to start one of them. Almost immediately, the 2 of them started going off about how I'm no longer a tradesman and how I should get rid of them. After weeks of dealing with their I wound up snapping because I wasn't going to let them disrespect me like that. This led to me telling them to shut the up before going on a rant about how I was tired of their antics. The result of this was them getting so upset that they just shut up and went home crying. Am I the asshole here? Oh, this is a really tricky one. I get it. Your life has changed in a somewhat substantial way, but that doesn't mean that you're unable to do anything. It means that you can still do the things that you need to do, but just in an alternative way. It's a very ableist view to be like, oh, what? You're different to me, therefore you can't do it. It's simply not true, and I think it takes a lot of unlearning, which only really comes from exposure to this sort of thing, right? To realise that there's not just the one way of doing things that quote-unquote normal people feel is the only way to do a certain thing. I can totally see how that is very frustrating. I can also see, however, how, especially with like mum tendencies and mum vibes, the idea that, you know, you're doing something slightly alternatively for somebody who's not aware of that and who might see it from a really ableist lens is just trying, like, with the best intentions to help you out. But just because you have good intentions doesn't mean you're doing a good thing. And I definitely think that the two mums in this situation need to be told this. I get it. They've got a good heart. They're good eggs. They're coming from a good place, but they just need to leave you to it because that's what you're wanting and it's your life. It's a shame that they didn't get the message. My big question here though is, did you sit them down before you had a big rant and told them to shut the up? Did you sit them down and go, look, I do things slightly differently, but that doesn't mean that I can't do them. You need to give me the space to live my life. It's important to me to do things by myself and to maintain my independence. If I need help, I will ask you for it. I do not need help right now. Blah, blah. Like, did that conversation happen in a nicer way before you like totally blew up at them over the chainsaw thing? Because if not, I'd be more inclined to say everybody sucks here, but where like you're like a really, really soft, small, you're the asshole badge within that. And I say that because I do understand the frustration. I see it often with some of my very, very close friends who live alternatively. The total frustration of having to say multiple times and educate multiple times, I can see how it gets incredibly tiring to be like, just leave me be, you do not need to helicopter me like this. At the same time, I'm also trying to see it from a really realistic lens of it's a mum who's going to try and help out anyway. Like, I love my mum, but I just had a cold and I had to convince her that it would not be useful at all for her to come down with a lot of soup, because as much as I love her soup, like, we've all got lives and we're all busy too, and like, mums are just trying to help, right? So like, in those situations, you need to have that conversation at least once. I don't think it's unreasonable to expect for you to have to explain to mum that boundaries are boundaries and she doesn't need to help out and insert herself as much as she is, because you're an adult now and you're still incredibly capable and you're living your own life. However, if you have already had that conversation and this was just another example and you know, had a moment you were like, gosh, just leave me be, then totally, you are not the arsehole, and your mum and friend are good eggs, good intentions, but still an arsehole. Not the arsehole. It's super weird for your mum of all people to disrespect you in this way. Like, you lost your hand, does that mean that you should just sit and with your good hand all day? You've got stuff to do. That's such a weird comment. That is so bizarre. I do agree. I think it's disrespectful if you've communicated it and she continues to be like, no, I think you're not capable, and so I'm gonna step in. Yeah, that's disrespectful. However, it might be a case that communication is key and she doesn't realise that it's disrespect, in which case a healthy, level-headed conversation can go a really long way. Not the arsehole. Having a disability doesn't mean that you stop doing what you need or like to do. You just find a way to adapt. Totally agree. One of my besties, Lucy Edwards, she's amazing, has the phrase, blind not broken. Just because she's blind doesn't mean she's broken. It just means that she does things slightly differently to sighted people, and that's totally fine. But again, people need to know that, right? People need to be educated. Not the arsehole, but you should have tried to have a mature conversation with them before snapping. That no longer a tradesman comment was uncalled for, and they're definitely in the wrong here, and you didn't deserve that. Your disability doesn't dictate who you are, and only you know your own limits. Please don't take that comment to heart. I love this. This is such a fantastic take. This is everything I was trying to say in a significantly more eloquent way. Poll comment. Oh, there's an information request here which hasn't been responded to yet, but it says, what's your technique to use a chainsaw with one hand and what tasks are you doing? Is it possible that they have reasonable concerns about the problems that come up with acquired disability? I'm physically disabled myself, says a commenter, and the fact is that whilst there are a few things that I absolutely cannot do at all, there are a lot of things that I shouldn't do because it isn't safe. When someone reminds me of that, it isn't about them being a helicopter mum, it's because they give a damn. 2 years isn't a long time to deal with all the psychological effects and change the reality of losing a hand. Gentle, you are the arsehole, because you maybe should think about what they're saying instead of assuming that they're being disrespectful. And I'm going off what you said here since you didn't include the actual things that they said to you. I super appreciate this take too. I still don't think it's enough to make Opie an arsehole if he's already had that conversation multiple times, because at the end of the day, I guess like, you are still an adult. You are still an autonomous being who needs to navigate life and understand when you want to ask for help and when you don't want to ask for help, and when you need help and when you don't need help. And sometimes when you want to and when you need help can be two very different things, and disabled or not, everybody goes through areas of life where we have to navigate that line and understand the sort of like grey area between that. But it is ultimately your decision. But yes, I totally appreciate the view, especially mentioning psychological effects, taking time to understand what somebody's own abilities are. And again, not just to do with disabilities, also to do with things like age, right? Like, something that I see so commonly in the older generations is a reluctance to understand that actually sometimes you can't drive anymore because your eyesight's not that fantastic. Or maybe you can't do these really, really extravagant excursions that you used to do because your mobility is just not the same as it was. People grow, and sometimes it takes a little while for our minds to catch up with our changes too. I feel like I've learned a lot about that one. I appreciate that fishing journey. What do you think, Peaches? Do you have anything else to add? If so, get your little fuzzy butts downstairs in the comment section. Just remember to be kind. Alright, should we do one more? I think we can do one more. Am I the asshole for not travelling to a different city to donate my egg to my sister? This sounds very spicy indeed! I'm a 29-year-old woman, and my sister, who's 34, and I have had a very difficult relationship. She looked down on me for a number of things and always had a disparaging view on everything that concerns me. However, that's only of a little concern to me right now. She and her husband, also 34, have been trying to have a child for a few years and have had trouble doing so. I've been empathetic of this very huge concern, and I get it, it's hard. She's also done IVF and some other treatments, but they've not worked out for them so far. So, to bypass that, they asked me to donate my egg to them, which I very readily agreed to do. Okay, just putting out there, this is a big ask. This is a very big ask, this is a very big undertaking. However, it came with a caveat. They wanted me to come in a day. I live in a different city. I'd have to fly down and back, which is 6+ hours, and miss days of work. I told them that I'm coming to their city anyway for a couple of weeks soon for a family meet, and I can do it then, and it'll also save me a bunch of money on airfare. Oh, I totally get that it's like down to position as well, but me personally, I'm just like, you shouldn't be paying for your airfare. If someone is asking for your eggs and you have like very kindly offered to help them out in that way, they should be covering all of your costs. If they're able to, of course. This is making me feel about comfortable. They refused, and they said that I should come within a couple of days to make it happen. Whilst I understand that they're in a rush, why am I being expected to 1, travel on my own, and 2, do it as per their convenience? My mum also pitched in here. She said that I need to be more understanding as I've been trying for years and must be in a lot of stress. I told my mother that I understand, and I've not really said no to it. I'm happy to do it, but they should either pay for my airfare or let me come when it's convenient for me. But now things have turned into a whole thing, and the entire family's calling me an asshole for not going to the city to help them. So, am I the asshole for not going? I have so many questions about this. Okay, let's unpack it bit by bit. My biggest question is, why do you need it so soon? I get it, you want a kid. I should also disclaim at this point that I have researched this process thoroughly. This is something that Jamie and I have looked into a lot. In terms of having babies, I'm likely going to have to go through IVF myself. I know so many people have gone through IVF, so I'd consider myself pretty well versed on the situation, and I don't understand any situation in which you would need to be like, no, the eggs need to be tomorrow. If you're a viable donor today, you're a viable donor in a month. Like, it can wait. And I don't think like a desperate need is in any way enough of a reason to force you to 1, miss out on a lot of work, 2, make you travel at a time that's inconvenient, and 3, come and do something tomorrow that you've just agreed upon. I'd have thought if there was a very genuine reason as to why it had to happen tomorrow so soon, that OP would have mentioned it in the post, because that would have been explained to them, but that doesn't seem to be the case. The second question that I have is like, where are you in this process? It sounds like you've just said yes, right? And they've been like, fantastic, come tomorrow and give me an egg. This isn't like going to a supermarket and going down the little egg aisle and looking for the free range and checking to make sure none have cracked and just, purchasing one. Like, it takes time. And when I say time, there are multiple steps in this process that you need to do before anybody is coming to scoop up your little eggs. Firstly, your eggs need to be ready, and that means taking hormones, like a course of hormones, which can take multiple weeks, sometimes even longer, because your eggs need to be fat and plump and ready for the taking. But even before that happens, every clinic that I've looked at also has quite a thorough sort of like psychological process. You have to come in independently, you have to come in with the people that you're donating to, and you need to have all sorts of conversations about understanding, like about essentially informed consent. Do you know what you're doing? Do you know the impact that this can have on your body? Do you want kids? Have you thought about how your kids are going to interact with this person's kids? When it's a close family member like this, like these discussions need to happen. Are you really comfortable with doing this? And do you know everything that is included in this process? Like, it sounds like none of these conversations have happened. So I have no idea how on earth they're like, yep, come tomorrow and your eggs will be in our little kitchen egg basket. Like, no, it doesn't work like that. The third question that I have that is also quite a big red flag for me is, why are the entire family not just calling you an arsehole, but like, why are they aware of this situation to a point where they're talking to you about it and feeling entitled to call you an arsehole? Like, this is a really intimate request. This is a really intimate scenario, which should really just be between you and the couple. And I kind of get it if like mum and dad are involved, if it's like, you know, both of your parents, or, you know, like a close friend, but an entire family calling you the asshole, like my assumption there, and I get it, we shouldn't be making assumptions, but it kind of sounds right, like that someone, whether it be someone in the couple or a parent, like the mum that they previously mentioned, has gone around and is like, oh my god, can you believe that she's agreed to give an egg, but she's not doing it tomorrow? Which is like not okay. You know, like you should not be feeling coerced into this decision at all. It should be done on your terms. It is your body. It is therefore your choice. So that's a little bit of like a worrying thing for me. And then the final question that I have about all of this is like, why is it that everyone's like, think about the couple. Think about the couple and how long they've waited and how hard this must be for them. I get that. But also, think about what you are doing. It is a massive deal, and it is so kind of you and so generous of you to help out your sister like that, which is lovely, especially considering the fact that you had a difficult relationship before, right? Like, this is very, very kind. So why is nobody thinking about the fact that you also have bills to pay? You also have a job. You need to be the one that's traveling over there twice. Like, why are they only considering the couple's impact and feelings and not yours? That's just very odd to me. So for all of those reasons, no, you are really not the asshole here. I don't think I can see any situation in which you are the asshole. And especially those first 2 points, like, I just can't see any world in which the couple know what's going on here. Maybe they don't understand the donation process and they think that it can just happen tomorrow like that. But like, it can't. It can't. Do you even know if you're a viable donor? Those tests need to be done first. Alongside all of those conversations, like you need to have follicle counts, blood tests. This is a lot longer than a day, babe. This is a lot longer than a day. Not the assholes to someone. And that's not how IVF works anyway. You don't just show up and retrieve an egg. You meet with a reproductive endocrinologist and you have to start hormones. It's a lengthy process, not immediate. So it doesn't make sense why you'd show up in a day. If you don't live near them, it seems like it'd make more sense for you to find a doctor near you to do the steps up until the egg retrieval. Didn't even think of that, but it's very true. One of the clinics that I was speaking to were just like, hey Shaaba, we need to see you within the 2 to 3 hours of you starting your period. So if you're having to take a flight somewhere else to do that, it's just not gonna happen. There are of course home kits which you can do. Again, it's not a day. It's not a day. OP said exactly. I told them it's a whole process and I can't just come and get it over with. They said they'll figure it out right now and just want to meet with a doctor to see if they can do it. I mean, that's fine. They can meet with a doctor. You don't need to come all the way on a flight for them to have that initial conversation. And the other commenter was so right. Like, you could have those conversations locally and do those tests locally before you do the big trip, because it's really just the egg retrieval that they need. All of the hormone prep doesn't necessarily need to be done in that location. Not the asshole. My best advice is do not do this. You've already demonstrated that you have a very toxic family who's trying to bully you into giving up a piece of your body and tormenting you for making reasonable requests. Your own mother is pressuring you in incredibly toxic ways. I do agree that is a bit of a red flag. That is real toxic communication to sort of force you or make you feel in any way like you need to do this right now. What happens if you at any point decide that actually this is too much for you and you don't want to do it anymore? If this is how your family are feeling and treating you because you're not coming tomorrow, imagine how they'd treat you if you're making a more substantial decision that you are very entitled to do. That would absolutely be a concern of mine. However, I wouldn't then say therefore don't do it. I'd say have a real think and make sure that you're really setting boundaries on who is aware and who feels like they have a right to make a decision or have an input on this journey, because the only people, point blank, the only people that should be having an input on this is you, because it's your body, and the couple who are eventually going to be the parents. Not the asshole. They need to understand that you're doing them a favour and behave accordingly. It's not reasonable to expect you to be out of pocket and missing unnecessary days of work for this. Totally agree. And again, in many situations where I've seen people donate eggs, they don't pay a single expense. Everything from travel expenses to, of course, a procedure, but also to like the lunch or the snacks that you buy are covered by the couple, because it's a really big deal, you know? So if someone's in a financial position to do it, you should be covering the expenses that go into helping you with this very, very large request. Wow, that was a big one. I definitely think that's like up there as one of the most bizarre and peculiar ones that have left me feeling some kind of way in the history of fishing for a-holes on the Shaaba channel. Alright peaches, that's it from me today. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you'd like to see more. Just a little shout as well to let you know that I have a song coming out. It's my debut single from my first ever EP that is coming out called Inside Voices, and you're very welcome to pre-save the song I Don't Like Me Either. The details are downstairs in the description box. Please do also join in the conversation. Get your fuzzy little butts downstairs in the comment section. Let's have a chat. What are your thoughts? Do you agree with me? Do you not? It doesn't matter either way as long as we're being kind. And of course, remember that BetterHelp is here for you should you need it. The link is downstairs in the description box. Thank you again for joining me. I'll catch you next time with another video. Be kind and have a great day.